you really want to find the next big winners in the market, you can't wait for headlines to tell you. Because by the time something becomes big news, the real upside is usually gone. Big themes don't start loud, they start quietly. And most people notice them only after the story has already played out. That's why we dig deep and bring them early, so you don't just watch the growth later on a chart, you can actually be part of it. We spent weeks researching those first two themes, and seeing it actually helped you made it completely worth it. If you missed that video, you can watch it after this one. So, we put in the same work again, and since so many of you asked for theme 3, we're not just bringing one. We're bringing two early shifts that are quietly building in the background. Both real, both backed by numbers, and still early enough to understand. Don't worry, just stay with me. Let's put the research right up here on the board and break it down piece by piece. Let's get into it. The third theme is more of a shift that no one is talking about. If there is one industry where India is sitting on a once-in-a-generation wealth opportunity, it's the CRDMO business. That's Contract Research Development and Manufacturing. I know it sounds complicated, but let me break it down for you. Think of it as the backstage of the pharma world. Here's how it works. When a pharma company has a molecule or a drug idea, they often don't do everything themselves. Creating a successful medicine requires years of research, testing, regulatory approvals, and then large-scale manufacturing. So instead of doing it all, many pharma companies outsource a big part of the work to a CRDMO partner, the research, development and testing, and even the manufacturing. Which means CRDMOs don't just make pills, they help invent them, test them, scale them, and build them for the world. So, why does this matter? Because worldwide, this industry is worth $197 billion. That's the size of the entire Indian pharma sector 6 times over. And India's share, just $7 billion. Barely 4% of the global pie. This is not a weakness, it's the opportunity. India is starting from a small base in a massive industry, but it is growing much faster than the rest of the world. Globally, the CRDMO market is growing at around 9% every year. India, a much stronger 14% CAGR. This means India is growing 55% faster than the world. If you closely look at the numbers again, you will see India is the only region consistently growing double-digit in both time periods. Why? Because India has a structural advantage the rest of the world cannot copy. Let's break that down quickly. First is the superpower, India's cost advantage. Let's look at the hard economics. If we take the US cost at let's say $100, India delivers R&D at just 25% of US cost. That's just $25. And manufacturing at 45% of US cost, which would be $45. Even compared to other regions, even China, the cost advantage in India is not marginally better. It is much better. So for a global pharma company, shifting work to India isn't a small saving. It's a huge cost cut with long-term impact. Second comes the talent advantage, India's secret weapon. India has the cheapest high-quality scientific workforce in the world. This matters because CRDMO is a people-intensive, research-heavy business. When India can hire a trained PhD or MSc chemist at less than half the Chinese cost and almost 1/3 of US or Europe, the long-term competitiveness becomes unbeatable. Now, add one more layer, trust and regulatory advantage. Look at US FDA approved plants, which is, by the way, the gold standard in pharma manufacturing. And here's the surprise. India has 26% of world's FDA approved facilities, the second highest after the US. This single metric is why outsourcing is shifting aggressively towards India. When big pharma outsources, they don't just look at cost, they look at compliance and reliability. And India scored high there too. Now, where is this heading? India's CRDMO market is projected to grow from 26,000 crores in FY 2022 to 52,000 crores in FY 28. That's exactly 2 times growth in 6 years. This growth is driven by more global outsourcing, India's cost and talent advantage, and strong regulatory credibility. These are the 8 companies which will potentially benefit from this megatrend. Each of these companies stands to benefit directly as more global pharma work gets outsourced to India. Now, when you put all of this data together, the picture becomes very clear. and answers why this is a mega trend. India has only 3% share of a $197 billion industry, but it's growing at 14%, faster than the world. With the lowest 75% R&D cost saving and 55% manufacturing cost saving, has the world's second largest FDA-approved ecosystem, has the scientific talent that costs 1/3 of US and Europe, and companies that are expected to grow 17 to 20% annually. So this is not a cyclical story or a sentiment-driven story, nor is it dependent on one policy. It's a structural trend. India is no longer just the generic factory of the world. We are becoming the research hub, development partner, and commercial manufacturer powering the pipeline of global pharma. Now let's move on to theme number 4. This next shift is something you and I see around us, but rarely think of it as an investment story. Imagine a country of more than 1.4 billion people moving towards better healthcare every single year. More insurances, more lifestyle diseases, more complex treatments, and more international patients walking into Indian hospitals. But here's the problem. The number of hospitals and beds is not keeping up. And that gap is turning into one of India's strongest long-term investment opportunities. Let us begin where the story starts. India's hospital gap demand is rising faster than supply. Think of a railway station built for 10,000 people, but 40,000 people arrive every morning. That's exactly how India's hospital capacity looks like today. India has one of the lowest hospital bed capacities in the world. We only have 1.59 beds per 1,000 people. China has more than 3x our capacity and Japan has 8 times more. This isn't a short-term problem. It guarantees years of hospital expansion and higher demand. Medical tourism, India's hidden superpower. Even with the bed shortage, patients from outside India are choosing our hospitals too. Why? Simple reason. High-quality treatments at a fraction of global cost. Take a look yourself. If a surgery costs 50 lakh rupees in the US but 5 lakh in India with the same outcome, the choice becomes obvious. And because of this cost advantage, medical tourism has surged. And the interesting part is most of this premium goes to metro hospitals and specialty chains. And leads us to our next point. Hospitals are getting busier and more profitable every year. More patients, more complex procedures, and a shift towards specialty care are pushing revenues higher. This is how the hospital sales look like. The sector revenue is expected to grow from around 60,775 crore in FY25 to 1,06,296 crore by FY29. Hospitals have high fixed costs, but once they are covered, every additional surgery boosts margin stability. Look at the cash flow from operations. That's expected to be 10x. Yes, you saw it right. It's expected to be 10x in 12 years. So what drives this kind of profitability? Let's simplify it to just 2 numbers. First, occupancy. Think of this as the percentage of beds actively being used. Stable or rising occupancy means steady patient flow. It may dip when new beds are added, which is healthy because it increases future capacity. Second, ARPOB. That's average revenue per occupied bed. This tells us how much a hospital earns per occupied bed per day. It rises with complex procedures, metro patients, and international cases. And it's expected to nearly double by FY27. That means hospitals are earning more from the same bed without relying only on expansion. That's why ARPOB is one of the biggest drivers of profitability. And here's where it gets interesting. Custom surgeries, complex care, and international patients mostly come to metro hospitals. Here's how much average revenue per occupied bed looks like for hospitals with larger metro presence. Now that we know what drives the business, let's look at the biggest companies who are leading this theme. India's hospital sector is powered by low bed availability, rising disease burden, growing insurance coverage, surge in medical tourism, rising EBITDA and ARPOB. This is a long-term compounding opportunity with strong fundamentals built on real demand. Both these themes, CRDMO and hospitals, are growing quietly and will look obvious only in hindsight tomorrow. That's exactly why we decode them now, not later. Hope this video added clarity. And if you want us to come back with the next big theme, you know what to do. Just comment theme 5 and we'll know. Also, if you're liking videos like this, you can subscribe to our channel. It really helps us keep making them. Bye. See you in the next one. रात को अगर मुझे स्क्रिप्ट याद आई ना, keep on going. नहीं, और ऊपर और keep on going. Okay, all right. Because we have been doing this since morning. The choice becomes obvious.
Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.